Hello, Rock Hard Caucus listeners. It's your friend, Justin. That's right, I'm your friend, your personal friend. I'm not just the host and producer of the podcast, I'm your friend. I live in your mind. I'm experimenting this episode with a new format that I'm dubbing Plugs First. Yes, you're going to be hearing plugs before you hear the main body of the episode. We got a great interview this week with a couple of history-focused guys, Greg and David, but before we get to that, let me just tell you about some stuff going on that I want you to know about. You do have an election coming up this Tuesday, November 4th, and I'm going to plug just candidates that we have interviewed. We got Clara Reinen for Iowa City City Council. Go to clara4iowacity.com. If you want to hear more from her, scroll back in your podcast feed. She was on episode 219. Just a few weeks ago. Also here in Coralville, my town, we got Ryan Swenka running for mayor, Katie Freeman running for city council. They just had a candidate for him earlier this week. You can find clips from that on the Rock Hard Caucus YouTube page. The clips that I put up there, very enlightening, I would say. Paints a stark contrast between my chosen candidates, Ryan Swenka and Katie Freeman, and the others. But you can also hear more from them on episode 217 if you scroll back in the podcast feed. And here in Iowa City, in the Iowa City School District, Dan Stevenson is running for school board, and you can hear him on episode 209 of Rock Hard Caucus if you scroll back in the podcast feed. That's required listening. If you are going to participate in this week's election on November 4th, you must listen to those episodes, 209, 217, 219. You gotta listen before you vote, all right? Aside from voting, there's some other stuff going on, some shows happening this week and next week and the week after that I would like you to be aware of and, if possible, attend. Here in Iowa City, all three of them here in Iowa City. This coming Wednesday, November 5th, a show at Frat House, which is a DIY venue. You can message me on social media if you need the address. We got Hyde, Dagger Wound, Carnap, and Ascended Master playing a show. I am in the band Ascended Master. This is our first time playing a show. We've been practicing for a couple months. Got some nice tunes ready to rock. November 5th, this Wednesday at Frat House. Come see Ascended Master's first show. And also enjoy, of course, Hyde, Dagger Wound, and Carnap. Next week, November 10th at Close House, Public Space 1. We got May and the Ladies and Basil Jones, who are on tour. They're coming through Iowa City. And we got local sets from Bree Senior and Bird Labs, November 10th. That's going to be a great time. I'm not playing personally, but I helped put the show together. I'm running sound. Let's call me the producer of that show. All right, so that's also required attendance. And then later this month, November 22nd, Wombat is playing my trio with Carlos Catayo Solaris and Will Yeager, playing our one show of 2025. This is your only chance to see Wombat in the year 2025. At Trumpet Blossom, November 22nd. Dan Padley, Gabby Vanek also playing. Required attendance. All right, take out your phone. Well, you're probably listening to this on your phone already, but pull up your address book and add this phone number into your contacts, 319-849-8733. This is the phone number for this podcast, the Rock Hard Caucus hotline. And hotline implies that we will answer the phone when you call. We will not. You may leave a voicemail, but it is still the Rock Hard hotline. 319-849-8733. You hear anything on the show that you like or don't like and you want to comment on, give us a call. Tell us what you think. You can also text that number, and that number is 319-849-8733. A lot of those phone calls and text messages end up as part of a series called Rock Hard Call Us, which you may find at patreon.com/rockhardcaucus. And you will also find a whole bunch of other stuff, like, for example, the Halloween episode we put out the other day, Rocktober Hardloween Carcass 5. It's the fifth one. 5. It's about 2 hours long, so you got a lot of audio there. And then this coming Wednesday, same day as the first Ascended Master show, November 5th, this Wednesday, the conclusion to Dobrain Book Club Hardwired, our 4th episode covering that book, me and my pal Eden. That's also over 2 hours, well over 2 hours. It's like 2:15. So lots of audio hitting patreon.com/rockhardcaucus right now. Lots of stuff to listen to. Plenty of hours to occupy your mind with. And all that for $1 per month. All right? I know things are getting pretty dicey with the economy right now, so I'm not going to beg you for money, but $1 a month is, I hope, not too much of an ask. I hope, but if it is, please don't feel obligated. All right. And if you hear about a paywalled episode of the show that you really would like to hear and you really don't want to pay for it and would rather buy food, which I understand, just, send me an email, send me a message. I'd be happy to share the audio with you free of charge. That's my gift to humanity. For all that's worth. Although, speaking of humanity, there's a new album out by the band The Value of Human Life. It's called Visitors. thevalueofhumanlife.bandcamp.com. And that's what we're going to end today's show with. It's the title track from Visitors. And the title track means that's what the song is called too, Visitors. We're going to play Visitors by The Value of Human Life to close this episode. So you're going to hear that in like an hour. All right. So don't forget, Visitors by The Value of Human Life is ending this episode of Rock Hard Caucus. If you make music, you would like us to hear it, please visit rockhardcock.us. Click the link near the top to submit your music to us, and we'll play it at the end of the show probably. All right. All that said, now it's time to listen to the show itself. Thank you for enduring this plugs first segment of Rock Hard Caucus. And now, an interview with Greg and David.
Appreciate we emailed them answers or questions beforehand, and they scripted out all their answers.
Oh, wow,
and they were just
super prepared.
Really excited.
Yeah, I am. Let me get my notes ready.
Oh, cool.
I should probably have those up. But I'm not super well versed in this issue, so that's why I need.
Well, we're still learning too.
Guests to help me out here.
Cool.
All right,
we're good.
Okay. Let's get it rolling. All right, welcome everybody. This is the 222nd episode of Rock Hard Caucus, your favorite podcast, the only podcast in Iowa, in the state of Iowa, mostly about the state's politics and culture and stuff like that. This time we're going to be trying to examine history a little bit, and myself, I'm primarily focused on the present. I don't know a lot about anything that happened before right now.
You live in the moment.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know anything that's going to happen tomorrow. I'm fully focused on the here and now, and I refuse to learn from the past. I refuse to plan for the future. But there's an issue that's been going on for the past few months that I've been trying to get my head around, trying to pay attention to. I've read a few articles, but I don't have a full grasp on the situation. So I'm joined today by a couple of excellent guests. Greg Wickencamp, who has actually been on the show very briefly, for maybe a minute.
Yeah, thanks for having us back
on the Dan Stevenson episode.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was on your radio show.
That's right, which was awesome. Yeah,
People Power Radio Hour.
That's right, talking about the flock cameras.
Yeah, and we got David McCartney here as well. And you're a retired archivist. Is that a proper title for you?
Yes, university archivist at the University of Iowa for 21 years. I retired in 2022.
Okay. So how's retirement been these past few years?
Oh, if we were living at a different time, I would give a different answer.
Yeah. But so you haven't been relaxing as much as you may like to.
Well, as I said to a friend not long after all of this began to unfold, I did not have litigate against the state on my bingo card for retirement, but here we are.
Late in life pivot to
right.
So the thing that's been going on is there's a building in Iowa City that houses a lot of documents and artifacts belonging to the State Historical Society, and the building is being emptied?
Gutted.
Yeah. Not right now it's not being, right? Because there's some sort of injunction going on.
Yes.
But
yes, there is a temporary injunction that we hope will become permanent. Mm-hmm. That was issued by Johnson County District Judge Kevin McKeever earlier in October. maybe we could, Greg and I could back up a little bit and talk about the background of all of this, how all of this began to unfold.
Historians are always wanting to back up just a
little bit. Here, let me give you this a little bit of the recent. This is like the most recent news that I found about this. This is from Vanessa Miller at the Gazette. Her article, Judge Halts Removal of Material from State Historical Society's Iowa City Facility. And David just mentioned this, but a Johnson County District Judge ordered the state to stop removing historic material from the 168-year-old State Historical Society's Iowa City Research Facility that it, over the summer, decided to close without warning or public discussion.
Right.
6th Judicial District Judge Kevin McKeever, already mentioned, also denied the state's motion to dismiss a lawsuit that 17 historians, archivists, professors, donors, and other community members filed in September, accusing the state of violating Iowa code and deciding to close the Iowa City facility that's operated since the Historical Society's founding in 1857.
Right.
Which is...
Hence the Centennial Building, as it was named, yes.
Yeah,
and David, you're one of those 17 that are involved in the lawsuit?
Yeah, Greg and I both are among
you're
the 17.
On the lawsuit as well.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So we got 2 of the 17 here.
Right.
I can't quit it. I can't really fit another 15 people in my living room.
You can fill the room.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess literally we probably could fit 15 more people in here, but all right. So now let's back up.
Yeah.
Historians, tell me what happened in the recent past.
Okay. Well,
we'll keep going backwards after that.
Recent history. On June 17th, without any public notice, certainly no notification to the board of the State Historical Society, the then director of the Iowa Department of Administrative Services, Adam Steen, just by fiat issued an order to the agency that he oversees, the State Historical Society, to find a way to cut 800,000 plus change, I guess, from its budget for the upcoming fiscal year, beginning this past July 1st. Well, Valerie
Van Kooten,
another
administrator
who directly oversees the State Historical Society, made the decision to close, along with Adam Steen's directive, agreed to make the closure. All of this was in late June. As I said, it came without any notice, no public input, no public comment, nothing. And it caught all of us by surprise, us meeting really a large, maybe nebulous group of historians and concerned citizens, people who don't necessarily conduct research there, but have a stake in Iowa history. And so later in July, I'm not sure when the motion was filed, it actually was in the works for the balance of the summer, and it came about in September that we 17 plaintiffs, in working with our attorney, Jim LaRue of Iowa City, filed a motion for a temporary injunction. And that motion was granted by Judge McKeever in late October.
Right. Yeah, that was just a week or two ago, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned Adam Steen, right? It's Steen, right?
Steen.
That's the guy running for governor.
It is,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying this to malign him. He has characterized himself. He has called himself the God guy.
Right.
He's quite proud of the
God
fact
guy?
that the God guy. He's quite proud of the fact that he expelled a satanic group from the state capitol.
I've seen him
which
brag
was
about that.
their First Amendment right to have a religious display in a public facility. If Christian groups can do so, then why not this other organization? So he took great pride in that, and that's apparently a part of his campaign now.
I mean, the way one might interpret his saying he's the God guy is sort of Christian nationalism is the way he wears his sort of religion, seemingly, in my mind, right?
Yeah. the GOP primary for governor here is a handful of guys seemingly competing on who can be the greatest God guy.
Right. I didn't.
He's got
tough competition too.
Yeah. I didn't know about him really until this decision, but I did find a really fascinating clip online. This was in the wake of Charlie Kirk's murder, and it's sort of unhinged. Adam Steen, you can look it up. It was a podcast, but he sort of rails on how the reason we're having mass shootings today is not because of guns, but somehow because of a lack of prayer in schools. Sort of, an analysis that could benefit from maybe some historical grounding.
Yeah,
And just kind of for your viewers to know, like we didn't prep this because we're reeling, we're numb. And there were actually two events from yesterday when Charlie Kirk was shot, and then there was a shooting in Colorado. And it is pure evil. The devil is real. He is working on the minds of people on a regular basis, and he is patient. This just didn't happen overnight. This started years ago with the devil removing Bible from schools, removing prayer from schools. I believe it was in the 60s or maybe 70s, like 72, 73. When prayer and the Bible was removed from schools, our education declined instantly. And this is 50 years in the making. And the devil has lulled us to sleep. He has made us comfortable, made us feel like we're quote unquote happy. He puts sports ahead of church. He puts feelings ahead of truth. And we sit back and we let him take ground from us, so much so that when we see these things, we can't even say thoughts and prayers anymore, because the devil has so screwed up people's minds that they turn that into a political weapon. This isn't about politics. This is about the church. This is about God's church, and what we need to do as people to realize that, hey, one, there's a creator God. There is a creator God. And I don't care if you're a historian or not, but if you're a historian, you can go back and you can look at the history of the world. I don't care if you're a geologist or whatever they are, an archaeologist. You can go back and look at the facts in the ground, in the earth. There's a creator God. We are created, and that means that the Bible is true, and that means that there is good, there is evil, and there are sides. And we need to step up and start figuring that out, because if we let the other side take over our side, it is game over.
What is the history of prayer in schools?
Right.
Since I have two historians here with me today.
Apparently you can't do it. Yeah. No, I mean, and it's bad. Yeah.
Yes. It's been downhill since 1963.
Right.
Whenever the Supreme Court ruling was.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, mercy.
So, when you were actively working as an archivist, what was your, I guess, relationship with the State Historical Society? Like, did you utilize the resources at this building as part of your job?
We worked with students from the university, naturally, who had an interest in really any aspect of university or state of Iowa history. And we collaborated very often with Mary Bennett, who I want to give a shout out to for a moment. Mary devoted her entire professional career to the State Historical Society in Iowa City. She retired a little bit after I did. Our careers pretty much paralleled, but I literally worked less than half the time she did. She was the primary curator for nearly 50 years. And so Mary and I partnered at times on projects. We worked with history faculty, of course, but other disciplines as well that needed to fulfill research requirements that could be met either in the university archives or at the State Historical Society down the street, literally down the street on Iowa Avenue. And historically, the state, I think using the word historically is a bit redundant in this. I just realized, so stop me if you've heard this one already. But the State Historical Society was established in Iowa City, and it was intended to be a partner of the university from the beginning. In fact, its longtime director, Benjamin Shambaugh, was also for many, many years chair of the political science department at the university. It was a hand in glove, whatever you want to characterize it, relationship. But it, while not formally a part of the university, it was absolutely has been and will continue to be a partner of the university.
Yeah, and they're both state institutions.
And they're both state institutions.
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting. I mean, you mentioned the date. It was founded 1850s, right? Around the time of the Civil War, along with the State History Journal, the Iowa Annals. And these were started explicitly because Iowans realized, oh shit, we're living through some historic times right now. We really need to preserve these materials, right? Right. And so there's stipulations about, there must remain an archive here in Iowa City.
Yeah, I have Iowa Code Section 8A 707.
Chapter and verse, yes.
Yeah, 2, which requires the department to maintain research centers in Des Moines and Iowa City, which is why it's like the court case is going in your favor.
And Judge McKeever is absolutely correct when he states that the language in the Code of Iowa could not be more plain.
Right.
And in his ruling, in his summary, he quotes that exactly. And he said there can be no, I believe he said it is not optional to close Iowa City. Getting back to Greg's point for a moment about the founding of the Historical Society, it was founded just before the Civil War broke out, and it was barely 10 years after statehood. And so there was a remarkable measure of foresight that I think went into the founding of it. And we'll, as critical, perhaps cynical historians will also take into account that this was founded at a time of manifest destiny, the predetermined greatness of the United States of America, and so forth, and that perhaps in its initial founding was meant to be a celebratory platform. But of course, as the discipline of history has matured over time and advanced, recognizing that all aspects of history are represented there, the difficult as well as the celebratory.
Yeah,
well put.
What kind of stuff is in this building? Like, it seems like it's like a long period of time,
right?
And it's how big is this building? I've been on the outside, but I guess
it houses 34,000 linear feet of records when it's intact.
Linear feet. So linear if you put every page side by side.
Yeah, right. Well, I did some math about that. I won't go into it now because it's kind of a boring mathematical thing to calculate.
Podcast listeners love numbers.
Okay. Well, hold that thought then. Okay. But Greg can take this question as well, but it's a wide variety of material accumulated over 170 years.
Yeah.
There are, records pertaining to the Iowa Civil Rights Movement, farmer labor movements in Iowa. The Iowa Labor Oral History Project is housed there. These are recorded interviews dating back to, I think, the 1970s of noted labor leaders or rank and file workers, a whole range. The Meskwaki tribe records and artifacts are housed there. This is a collection particularly that Mary Bennett, who I mentioned, is especially proud of having acquired, and she worked very closely with the Meskwaki tribe. It's the only federally recognized indigenous community in Iowa. And I made a note to myself to bring this up, although it was not a part of the legal argument, and I'm not quite clear on whether there is a federal law that specifically addresses the management and preservation of Native American materials, but there are certainly federal implications with this entire decision to close Iowa City. It's my understanding that if not by law, certainly by courtesy, the creators of those materials should be notified, should be informed before any decision is made. And that is especially true for indigenous related materials.
I would think so.
Right.
Ethically, if nothing else.
But I want Greg to pitch in on that question too, on what you've encountered, because you've done research there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the favorite things that they house is the Bystander, which was Iowa's most prominent black newspaper. Mm-hmm. And, if you want to get a good understanding of what was actually happening as a historian, it's good to look to the Radical or Black Press, right? Mm-hmm. And so in that, you can find that in 1976, this is 76, there were a cross burning in Carter Lake, Iowa, with hundreds of people in attendance. So you can find out.
Carter Lake, you said?
Carter Lake, Iowa. Yeah, I don't know where
surrounded by Omaha, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's the only Iowa town west of the Missouri.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
Well,
yes.
A little trivia there.
I've been through that. Yeah, I know.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
I know.
No. Yep. But I mean, I love the Bystander, because then you also find out things like Edna Griffin of Des Moines was the co-chair for Shirley Chisholm's presidential campaign. So you find this history, right, of struggle by and for Iowans towards justice yet unrealized, I think.
And this stuff wasn't all like in the Des Moines Register at the time?
No. Okay. Yeah, certainly not. I mean,
not at that level anyway.
Yeah, not with the depth. I mean, they also, my particular interests are around policing. And so there's a lot of really critical articles about what the police were doing in Des Moines and throughout Iowa, things that we might learn from today about how policing functions.
Yeah. So all of this stuff that you guys are mentioning, black newspaper, a lot of labor interviews and such, maybe hints at like a potential motive for why certain actors in the state government might want to, ditch some of this stuff, throw it away.
It's my personal opinion, and it's not a part of the legal argument, but from my experience, this is purely political. Mm-hmm. The $800,000+ being asked to cut. I took up my calculator. It's I went back and double checked my numbers against the state's overall operating budget, and that accounts for 0.00008% of the state's overall operating budget. It's out of about 10.
3 zeros?
4 zeros and an 8.
Okay.
Yes. Right. I had to count myself there. But out of a state operating budget of over $10 billion, and even with the shortfall, that's a whole other discussion. But the anticipated shortfall on account of the lack of progressive taxation of wealthy individuals in Iowa and corporations. Mm-hmm. We are experiencing a shortfall, but nonetheless, it's to me a very specious reason for shutting down Iowa City. Yeah. It is political.
No doubt.
I'm absolutely certain of that.
I'm totally with you, though. I didn't expect this to be so math heavy this morning. I mean,
I got numbers here from the Gazette.
I'll put the calculator down.
Yeah.
What are your numbers?
This is from Vanessa Miller's Gazette piece again. The state cited $878,000 in deferred maintenance at the Iowa City facility as rationale for the closure, and pointed to $5 million in infrastructure funding for shelving in Des Moines, because there is a facility in Des Moines as well.
Right.
And though the $5 million worth of shelves, I guess, could be used to house collections transferred from Iowa City, despite the fact that this funding was earmarked for replacing faulty shelves for existing archives.
Right.
So that shelf space was already accounted for, I guess.
It was a zero-sum game. Mm-hmm. And early on, I don't know whether it was the state archivist who stated this, who is overseeing this entire endeavor. That's the most polite word I can think of to call this. They stated that only 40% of the Iowa City holdings can actually be absorbed by the Des Moines facility.
Yeah.
And so you've got this remaining balance of about 60% of the holdings, which include my church's records here in Iowa City. They include a lot of local organizations, clubs, individuals, papers that may be dispersed. And how they can be dispersed, we don't know. The state has not been very transparent about that part of the process. You have this looming question about the fate of over half the materials at the Iowa City facility.
Yeah.
And it's in my affidavit, I stated that this was not in keeping with best professional practices, that there is no transparency in the process, but no known methodology in determining which collections are to be retained, which are to be offered perhaps to local historical societies, which may or may not be in a position to absorb these materials. I mean, there are still so many questions that surround that.
Right. There's no clear plan on like what
Right.
what stays, what's getting taken somewhere else and whatnot. But despite, at least, publicly, they didn't have a plan for this. Despite that, the state on October 1st began removing boxes and collections using prison labor in unmarked trucks. So they were in a real hurry.
Yeah. An extreme hurry, really. And I went there, and you did too. I mean, it was really a gut check, to see these really carefully preserved for 100+ year documents sort of pitched into a truck while it was raining by exploiting.
It was raining that day.
Yeah, exploiting incarcerated people.
Yeah.
I had kind of a weird interaction. I was filming this, and the person overseeing the prison laborers called the cops, and so a state patrol officer came quickly, and was oddly sort of defensive about the use of prison labor. I didn't engage with him, but
unprompted,
right? He sort of felt the need to explain how forcing prisoners
guilty
to work.
Conscience, maybe?
Yeah, right. Like weird. This might be a good time too to mention that my words are just mine and not the University of Iowa
totally.
at all. Sure. Yeah, but I mean, to your point about like maybe the funding is just an excuse. I think absolutely it's an excuse that there's that Orwell quote about like who controls the past can control the present.
Rage Against the Machine song. Too.
Rage Against the Machine, yes, said it eloquently as well, right? In looking through history, you're taught to sort of view patterns and primary causes. Like we could say, sure, funding is an issue. You could also say, sure, like a butterfly flapped its wings far away, and because of that, circuitously, that we need to close this. But I mean, the primary cause is political, at least in fitting with the larger pattern that we see today.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's certainly consistent with how state administrators have conducted themselves in the recent past, too. We see that with the Annals of Iowa, which has been an esteemed refereed journal of Midwestern history, and that has been dismantled as a part of this whole move against the Iowa City basis of the State Historical Society. And Valerie Van Kooten was caught on tape actually remarking in a meeting that she was asked why the Annals as an entity was being shut down. Was it because of budget concerns? And she said, I think you were present, Greg, or
I was able to get it through an open records request, and the Annals of Iowa, the history journal, pays for itself with the subscriptions. So she was asked, is it budgetary? Why are they closing it? And she sort of said point blank, there are people who don't like it, okay? That's all I can say, kind of this snarky defensiveness.
And you sent me that recording, so I'll probably play that right now.
I have a question. I'm assuming they're cutting the animals because of budget. Is that why it was cut?
No.
Okay. No, was the actual reason it was cut. Besides Andrew's workload.
There are people who don't like it. Okay? That's all I can say. And we are a much leaner staff. I
was asking, this is what I thought you were going to say, yes, budget. Yeah. I was asking because I'm like, it's hard to understand that is a moneymaker, and it actually draws our membership.
It supported itself.
But it's just so damning, and shows where their motivations lie.
Right. This is a journal that there is no economic, excuse for this.
Right.
You do all the things you're supposed to do. Okay, we'll make the Annal self-sufficient. We'll make it self-supporting. We'll support it through subscriptions. it's still not enough. It's still not enough to placate them. So
No, they just don't want it to exist.
they just don't want it. Let's just cut to the chase. They just don't want it.
Yeah. And so has that already shut down publication, or is this
it's sort of in limbo right now? There are rumors that it might be picked up by one of the Regents universities rather than the state. So it's sort of uncertain where it will end up or if it will continue.
Yeah. And I wouldn't consider that necessarily a safe place for it either.
Not in this political climate. Right. Yeah.
Right.
And is that these are both under the purview of the State Historical Society?
I think so. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, this was during a June 26th Board of Trustees meeting. Thanks to Greg.
Sure.
Okay.
You wrote in the in Bleeding Heartland about this a couple months back. When I was doing my research earlier this week.
Yeah, Laura was kind enough to publish my piece there.
Yes.
I think an important point to bring up in all of this is the potential long-term damage that a decision like this makes with regard to relationships with donors.
Yeah.
I was, in my capacity as university archivist, I needed to be mindful of being honest with prospective donors, whether or not what they intended to donate to our institution was within our collecting scope. Mm-hmm. And if it was not, I needed to be honest with them about their materials, and to perhaps suggest another repository that would be a more appropriate home for their papers. Sure. Mm-hmm. In the case of the State Historical Society, Mary, I'm shouting out for Mary Bennett again, but she, over the years, has done such a commendable job developing very, very positive and constructive donor relations. And it takes a long time to build that type of relationship and that reputation. We as custodians of these records are entrusted to maintain, preserve, and make accessible those records per the wishes of the donor. And if that is reneged in any way, that destroys or at least severely undermines the trust level that is historically developed over time. So,
and I think that relationship's been damaged already just by what's already happened.
No doubt.
Right? Yeah. We don't really know what was taken away in those trucks.
Exactly. Right.
Right. At the beginning of October.
Right.
There's no record, right?
Right.
Of
yeah.
I mean,
trying to file another open records.
Well, that brings up another question about special master. But Greg, you had something to say first.
Yeah. Just to kind of build off what you were saying in your op-ed, which I think to the Gazette or Little Village.
Yes. Both. And some other Iowa
newspapers. Was this also printed in Iowa Starting Line? Because
I believe they carried it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And the Storm Lake Times Pilot, our friends in Northwest Iowa.
Yeah.
There were several papers that carried it.
Which is good, because in that and in our conversations, you've made the really excellent, insightful point that there's a sacredness to preserving history, because without it, we not only don't know our past, but we don't really fully know who we are. And so to deprive people of that is really to flatten our experience today and limit our possibilities moving forward, because we don't know what they've done in the past that works or didn't work to work for justice, right? My dear friend Adrian, his late father, said a person without a sense of history has a paper-thin soul, which was the title of that Bleeding Heartland piece.
Yes,
yes. Very well said.
Right? But there is this sort of deeper humane reason which we might want to preserve these documents.
Absolutely. I wanted to bring up the point of special master, which is a part of the motion that our attorney filed, in addition to the temporary restraining order that we've been able to secure.
Which basically just means that they have to stop.
They have to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop where they are. And the next step will be for an administrative ruling to actually return the materials that have so far been transferred to Des Moines.
Okay.
And to essentially reinstate Iowa City as it was before all of this came down. But the special master is, I believe, and this is not something I'm very familiar with procedurally, but my understanding is this is considered an expert investigator who presumably would be called from outside the state of Iowa. I don't know. Presumably somebody who has neutral interest in the case itself, but has an understanding of professional and ethical standards in archives management.
Right.
And this individual would be tasked by the court to investigate all of the activity that the state has undertaken in, as a Gazette headline said, the undoing of the Iowa City Library. And that individual would, I assume, would review emails, would review the procedures, if any, that have been followed in tracking the materials. I know they've not been barcoded. We have at the University Archives, which is part of the larger Department of Special Collections in the University of Iowa Library System, we barcoded each and every box and individual item before removing them to a managed off-site facility about 5 miles from downtown, but still in Iowa City. We had to follow, and we were glad to, because it's our job to have this protocol of tracking each and every item that left, not item, but every box, every container, and oversized items to be accounted for. So the special master would be tasked with identifying if or whether those protocols have been followed, among other things.
Yeah, and it seems like probably not, right?
Right. I mean, well, in the what was it? The Society of American Archivists released. This is a nationwide organization. Released a statement calling out Iowa specifically for the way they're messing up and seemingly disregarding ethical standards when it comes to preserving these things.
Yeah, I was kind of curious if there's any precedent for this, anywhere else in the country.
Not that I'm aware of in the way that it's been handled.
Yeah.
It's certainly not. There is precedent for relocation of materials, provided that X, Y, and Z are followed. There needs to be a protocol for that. But the manner in which this was handled, and that's not to in any way surrender the Iowa City materials if they were to be transferred in a quote-unquote proper way. It's simply wrong statutorily to close it down. So in this case, it should not even be justifiable. From the beginning. There are instances, perhaps intra-institutional decisions are made, as we did at the University of Iowa, where we physically relocated some materials outside of the main library because of lack of space. And beginning in, I think, about 2015, a climate-controlled overflow space, if you will, was established in another part of Iowa City. That was all managed within the institution. It was locally managed, and we had very clear steps in place for our management protocols. So the idea of removing materials for space considerations is not unprecedented.
I'm sure it happens
but the manner in which this happened is absolutely wrong.
Right, chucking him on a truck through the rain. I mean, it's not how you did it, huh?
No.
Yeah. I imagine moving a lot of stuff to an offsite facility, like an overflow, like you said, requires like a good amount of labor, right? Did you at that time maybe employ prisoners for that labor?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, that's right.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Right. Maybe people who got training
staff,
and archives.
I'm completely on board with what Greg said earlier about the exploitation of prison labor. Yeah. I think it's important to stress that we are not criticizing those individuals at all.
No.
Right.
They've been put. Frankly, I think they've been put into this difficult position.
Well, it's not like they're given a lot of choice.
Right. They have no choice. Yeah. And, but they are being exploited, and, without adequate training, it's just, not a winning proposition in any sense.
Yeah. As students of history yourselves, is there like a lot of context you could provide for like the the use of prison labor in something like this? Like,
yeah. I mean, I think Michelle Alexander has that great book, The New Jim Crow, which documents how the elimination of Jim Crow practices sort of dovetailed nicely with this increase in imprisonment. There's then the movie The 13th, kind of based on her work, which argues
13th being the amendment to the
Constitution,
Constitution,
that outlaws slavery except in the case of incarceration, right?
For, enslaved labor. Yeah.
Right. So, it's interesting, like when one system of oppression, be it Jim Crow, is sort of ended, there can emerge another system of oppression like we see today with the mass prison system, right?
Privatization of prisons.
Exactly,
the United States has by far the highest rate of incarceration in the world.
Yeah, it's obscene. I mean, it's really, truly obscene.
Yeah, and without some understanding of history, it's kind of hard to see the big picture there.
Exactly.
And so, if we can, cover that up, it might help.
Exactly.
Might help move things along in perpetuity. And I guess why do we being a larger like a society economy, why do we need that? Why do we need forced labor for less than poverty wages? Why is that such a necessity to keep this machine in motion?
Right. Well, I mean, I think there's a pretty direct through line. We have some of the wealthiest people in human history right now alive who have hoarded this wealth, but that doesn't come from nowhere. That comes at the expense of those whose labor is exploited and has been exploited to create that wealth. I mean, the buildings themselves that some of these wealthy folks live in, if they're old enough, were built by people who were enslaved, right? And so we have to see these through lines that wealth doesn't just generate on its own or because Elon Musk had a really sharp idea. Like, it's because he and his family have exploited people, So I think that's it. I mean, the judge, there's this great quote in his signing on to this injunction. If I could read these sentences at the end, he says something I think is just right on. He says, this is likely, the court finds, to cause great or irreparable harm, this sort of gutting, disaboweling of the state archives.
Yeah.
He said, the history of our state is quite precious and should be preserved for future generations. If parts of that history go missing, it would be a great harm to all Iowans, including present and future generations, because then we wouldn't understand that using incarcerated labor is just another shade of difference than the atrocities which we can all speak out against from the past, right?
It seemed terribly poetic. I don't know if that's really the right term to use, but when we learned that prison labor would be used for this, it seemed awfully appropriate.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to justify it at all. It's horrifying.
No doubt.
It is horrifying, and the adverbs modify the.
Yeah. And maybe I can make a quick plug too, because it's easy to think like, well, what the hell can we do? I mean, these are big forces of the state. COGS is because some of COGS, the Graduate Student Union, our archives and documents are at the state
committee of graduate students.
Yes, State Historical Society. We've realized, we should back these up somehow. We can't afford to house the original documents, but if you're interested, if you got a few hours to kill, you come and you scan these documents so they're digitized. So then we have kind of a copy. You can email me, Greg Wickencamp. You can find my email on the university website, but a really cool initiative.
Links in the episode notes too.
Yeah.
Actually, that brings up a point that I was curious about as well. So, David, in your career as an archivist, there obviously were huge technology developments to increase our ability to preserve documents like this in a digital format. Does that impact? Did that impact like how much physical space these records take up in the first place at all?
It's a very good, very important question, Justin. And I think one major consideration whenever any digital reformatting project is undertaken is to get an estimate of the amount of labor hours that would be required to digitize traditional paper records. And the remark has been made, and I think from state officials even, that, we can just digitize everything and it'll be available online.
Yeah.
That's a very lofty goal, and it's not at all realistic.
Yeah.
And here I go back on math again, and I have to, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but let me just lay out what the equation would be and what I think the bottom line was going to turn into. You have 34,000 linear feet. Each linear foot or shelf foot that you have on your shelf.
Oh, is that what it's measuring?
Right. Okay. I thought I'd make that clear.
Thank you.
Just in case. We're not talking metric here. Sorry. Yeah. But for your European listeners, we're still using the antiquated
the
crown.
imperial foot, huh?
Right, the imperial. But okay, so a linear foot conservatively has 1,500 pages of documents. So you multiply 1,500 by 34,000. And then where do we go? I don't know what that number is, but you estimate that for handmade digitizing, not rapid feed, because these are in many cases fragile documents.
Right. We are talking about around 51 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Roughly.
Keep that calculator open.
I'll keep this open here.
Okay. Hold that number. 51 million. Okay. So 51 million pages to scan. You assume, if you're supervising a digitizing project, it takes probably conservatively 60 to 90 seconds per document to properly scan, because you're not only scanning standard res JPEG. I'm getting into some jargon here, but you, in doing this process, you want high quality uncompressed files, bitmap files.
Yeah.
And that takes time. But let's say
space, like digital space.
Right.
Yeah,
but let's say, just for our 51 million documents, it takes a minute to scan each one. And so how many minutes would that be? It would be 51 million minutes, right? That works out to, I mean, we don't have to carry it any further than that, but you get the idea.
850,000 hours.
Right, right.
And,
You're talking
and
decades,
the bottom line I came up with at home, and I'm sorry I didn't bring it with me, but it would cost millions of dollars to do, of course. I don't know what, but it would be into 8 digits. The time that it would take, if you hired an army of, say, 12 technicians to do this nonstop, 40-hour weeks with 2 weeks off each year, it would take about 10 to 12 years to complete.
Yeah, that's with how many people?
10 to 12 technicians.
And even with that many people, it takes a decade to do this.
And I used, and this is very much lowballing on salary, I used 50,000 plus benefits, 50,000 per year for an annual salary per technician. Yeah. And that's not enough. Actually, it should be. And you
that's
can't pay. It's tedious work, frankly. I've done it. It's important work, but you really need to pay people well to do that, because it's not the most fulfulling work sometimes.
Unless you're doing it for Caucus volunteer, and then it's actually really fun.
Really fun and rewarding.
Absolutely. And that's a much more reasonable scale.
The more time you spend doing it, like, the tedium really drags on you, and you lose focus, and your work starts to suffer. I've done this for like a doctor's office years ago, just helping them digitize their old records, and so I'm thinking about when I was in that position, and I'm getting paid, I think, $10 an hour. Right. And it's something that I don't care a lot about. Right. And so I'm sure a lot of stuff kind of fell through the cracks when I was doing that.
I mean, absolutely for smaller scale volunteer projects, that absolutely is fine. But we're talking about a massive state agency, massive scale project. Right. Yeah. And so you can't just flippantly say, we can scan it and put it all online. Yeah. And one of the state officials, and I don't know if it was the state archivist, but it was a means of assurance that they were apparently trying to make that, it's all going to be fine. It'll all be online and we'll all be happy. And No, it doesn't work that way at all. It's
Send somebody through the archives with a camera. Just
Yeah.
take a picture of each
Oh, we
shelf
got it.
real
Yeah,
quick.
exactly. Right. Yeah,
right.
But yeah, I mean, that takes up a lot of storage space. It's not as... It's not as much as like physical, like
Sure,
a warehouse,
right.
but it's
And
like
I didn't even
drives.
take
Yeah,
into
no doubt.
account the expense involved with providing
Maintaining.
adequate digital storage space.
Right.
And
Absolutely,
if you're
yeah.
talking about bitmap files that are uncompressed, that takes a lot of room, and you can't just use an iCloud account.
Yeah,
for that.
right.
And those drives die over time. You got to have
Exactly.
people maintaining the
Right.
servers and everything.
Maintenance is ongoing. There are a lot of additional expenses I did not actually take into account when I came up with those numbers.
We could just upload all the images to like the Amazon cloud. And
Yeah, sure. And then it'll be
all good.
super secure.
Yeah, and I've navigated a lot of state websites, and like they're not always like, the best user interface and everything.
Right.
Something that did come up earlier while we were talking is the Meskwaki records being held at this facility. And this is from Greg's piece in Bleeding Heartland that I just wanted to... I mean, we kind of already talked about this, but just to reiterate it, Jonathan Buffalo, who was at the... at a rally in the summer, talking about this. Jonathan Buffalo noted the Meskwaki, who have many records housed in Iowa City's research center, were not notified of any change or given explicit plans for preservation of their materials, despite legal requirements.
Exactly.
So he claims legal requirements. We don't have the specifics maybe on that, but
he is correct.
Yeah.
And if you put that in historical context, you know, another betrayal of a tribe of native people.
Well, and you're so right. I mean, to not even have the common courtesy to say, hey, we're thinking of moving your documents, maybe offering them to the tribe if they'd like to keep them, or at least seeking their input rather than saying, yeah, we're going to throw them on a truck.
Don't even say anything
you
before do it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, what disregard, from the state.
Yeah. And there's some sort of, as you were talking about earlier, there's some sort of conversation that happens when an agreement is made to store this material in a state-owned facility, right?
Exactly. The irony is, if indeed these materials are removed from Iowa City, the trucks would zoom right past Tama onto Des Moines.
Yeah. You think they could at least stop and drop some stuff off.
Well, I think it was at that rally, which was held at the Iowa City Public Library in September. It was after Labor Day, I think.
Yeah.
Standing room only. There were over 200 people there. Jonathan Buffalo, I think, in his remarks said, "What happens to our stuff?"
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
an open question.
It's absolutely crucial question and an open plea for cultural respect.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, there's only space for 40% of what's at the Iowa City facility over in Des Moines. And if they're not even having conversations with the people whose stuff is stored there, like, do you have a lot of hope for whatever's going to happen to that remaining 60%? Like, it's just going to be gone, right? Like, no one's going to know what happens to that stuff.
Right. Well, and I think, I mean, the hope is that this lawsuit comes out in the people's favor. But beyond that, I think there's a hope that we better learn from history that we can't just rely on the courts always, or the infrastructures that exist, right? But we need to work together to push for a better future. I mean, to me, that's kind of the biggest lesson that I'm learning from history, and one that our state representatives certainly have not engaged with.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I might note that in terms of state legislative recognition of this, it's not a partisan issue.
Right.
And I am in contact with a Republican lawmaker. I grew up in Charles City.
Sure.
And the lawmaker from there, House District 58, is Charlie Thompson, a Republican and Trump supporter.
Yeah.
And Charlie and I disagree on a lot of things, but on this we do agree. He recognizes the fallacy of this entire activity. And I think, I can't speak for Charlie on this, but I would not be surprised if he co-sponsored legislation along with Representative Adam Zabner, who is a Democrat from my district here in Iowa City. There are, I think we're going to see, I hope, bipartisan support for our concern. History concerns everybody, and this cannot be regarded as a right-wing, left-wing dichotomy at all.
Right.
Yeah, that was one concern of mine when I was reading about the decision from the judge, citing a specific part of the Iowa Code. Is that, well, what if this next legislative session that gets crossed out, like they've been wont to do recently?
That's a legitimate concern, and we're not going to go there. I do think that if it becomes more widely known as a nonpartisan issue, this will be upheld. Our actions will be upheld.
Yeah. Do you have any? I mean, you're not a lawmaker yourself, but do you have any any inkling as to like what kind of legal protections could come about legislatively to protect these facilities and these archives?
I really don't know. That's a question.
Given that the law already does protect them,
that's the thing. The law is only as strong as the people who honor it.
Right.
And clearly, we have a regime now. I really, again, speaking for myself, I can't really call this a state government when it's a regime that acts on impulse in the way that it has with this, and ideologically as well. The statute, as written, couldn't be plainer, but perhaps it should be strengthened. It should somehow have even additional language.
Just add like we really mean this.
Yeah. Well, we really mean this. No, but include sanctions. I mean, perhaps, and I don't think there are sanctions currently, but those who are found to have violated this will face consequences. And what that could be, I don't know. Could be a fine, could be imprisonment. I wouldn't want to rule that out as a possibility because it's willful disobedience of an important law.
Right. Well, and I really appreciate your point that preserving history certainly isn't and shouldn't be a partisan effort, whether you're conservative or extremist or liberal or left. I mean, who doesn't want to have an accurate history? But I think the push to, you
can answer that question for yourselves.
Exactly. I mean, but the push to dismantle and deny history is certainly authoritarian. I mean, there's a certain body of politic that depends on misremembering the past. Some glorified time when America was great, we might imagine, right? That we can then strive for.
Yeah, if we have this idealized vision of the past as like a goal to regress towards, and we don't have any sort of like accurate record of like what actually was going on back then. What did black people write about?
Exactly. Right. What did the workers do? Yeah. I mean, Jason Stanley, this scholar of authoritarianism, recently wrote a book about how authoritarians erase the past and sort of outlines it throughout U.S. and international history, how this is a pattern that we're seeing play out today in Iowa.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. All right. Well, we're nearing an hour. Is there any last minute stuff you want to make sure we fit in here before we turn the mics off?
There is a fallacy in current state government that the State Historical Society should be regarded as a business. And it's not a business. It's a public service. Is a fire department a business? Is, a school should not be a business. A school is a public good. It's a public entity. And the justification they've had for closing the Iowa City Library is that it gets, quote unquote, only about 1,000 visitors a year. It's not sustaining itself, et cetera, et cetera. It was never intended to.
Well, it's not a museum.
It's right. Well, yes. And it's not intended to be a self-supporting commercial entity. It's a public good. It is not a business. And I am so weary of the groupthink of this current government that everything should somehow be should be self-supporting should turn a profit.
Right.
Does that mean we should have tolls at every
Right.
highway, every mile of highway in Iowa?
Yeah,
Because
gotta make
those
sure
are
it pays for itself. Yeah.
yeah, pays for itself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's I mean, obviously a much larger discussion about like what's the role of government itself, you know, like does every single service that exists have to turn a profit? And I mean, if you really follow that logic, like where's all that money going to come from at the end of the day if every single aspect of our lives has to turn a profit?
Right.
Right.
Just get squeezed and squeezed.
Yeah.
Greg, your turn.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, to follow that. I think, you know, if we don't know our past, we don't know who we are, and we don't know ways forward for the future, which is why people in this state in power want to disembowel the past. I mean, and I think another thing that history tells us is that when we work together, we can overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. A lawsuit might be one way. Getting out of the streets, organizing, working through unions might be other ways, but the future is not yet written, and we can write it ourselves.
The key is a collective will.
Damn right.
Yeah.
Organize among ourselves to pursue our goals collectively.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might be a
said,
good
Greg.
place
Thanks.
to leave it, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Greg and David, for coming over and trying to set me straight on this. Give me a little background. Help me be a little more knowledgeable about this. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Justin.
Thanks for having us, Justin.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time. I'll probably record a plug section, but there is an election if you want to vote. So don't forget to do that. It's on Tuesday, so you're probably going to want to participate in that.
Thanks, Justin.
Goodbye.